glad to have you here.
Hi, Grant.
And in case any of you don't know what humanism is, the American Humanist Association advances humanism, a philosophy of life that without theism affirms the ability and responsibility of human beings to lead personal lives of ethical fulfillment that aspire to the greater good of humanity. Sounds good to me. And our guest speaker is Bruce Gleason. He heads the Backyard Skeptics, rather a large group. I think you have over 1,000 members. And he also puts up those billboards. Would you like to say a little bit about the billboards?
3 years ago, we had a donor that helped us with billboards spreading a humanist/atheist/skeptic message, and we revitalized one of them. We had 14 billboards 3 years ago, and the donor demands media attention, so as soon as the media attention went down, he dropped us, but he came back because we have a Valentine's billboard up on Harbor and First in Santa Ana. And the billboard is to, the purpose of it is to let people know there are groups out there that support humanism, atheism, skepticism, anything outside the mainstream of Christianity or any type of theism. And the billboard, if you can imagine, I have a picture on the cell phone, but I don't think you'll be able to see it here. It's 2 pairs of feet underneath a blanket. It's Valentine's Day, so it's called a lover's billboard. So you see the 2 feet, and on the right side says, "Atheists make better lovers. After all, no one is watching." That's a billboard. That's my introduction.
Okay.
I don't get attention.
I'm just getting over a cold, so I
I
have
am
to go
too.
get a drink of water, but I'll be right back, and we might as well get right into the
I can do this for
presentation.
now until you come back.
Okay.
Great. I'm not multi-dexterous here, so. A little bit about me. My name's Bruce Gleason. I grew up in a secular family. We did go to church, but it was more of a cultural experience. I did get confirmed. And about the age of 11 years old, when I was just about out of Sunday school, I started thinking, which was dangerous for most churches, because I just didn't make sense of anything. This is one area. Oh, you're back, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. We're on number 1 right now. I'll just go and give you hints as we go.
What area did you grow up?
Anaheim. I grew up at Walt Disney Elementary School, the only school that legally can put the Disney characters in the cafeteria. That's about it. Walt Disney did visit us once in a while, never when I was there, but he died when I was in 5th grade, I think. 5th or 6th grade. News was all over there. And we did go to church culturally, and as soon as I started questioning things, I started skipping Sunday school, taking my 50-cent donation, going down to the liquor store and buying a candy bar. And that's pretty much my background. 10 years ago, the reason I started Backyard Skeptics, which is the largest skeptic/atheist community in Orange County, now it's in 5 different areas. We have 5 different chapters, from LA to South County, and one here in Long Beach. So the reason I started that is because, well, I read the Bible. And I started reading some internet sources on the negative aspects of the Bible, and I could not believe it. It was much worse than I thought, and then I read further, and it was much worse than I thought the first time. And so I started examining it and started using my critical thinking skills to examine why people think the way they do. And it's a fascinating story or an inquiry that I'll never finish, because why people think the way they do is partly of how I think. I think the way other people think they do. Come on in. Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah, we are.
Thank you for waiting for us.
We didn't. We
Hello,
started.
Betty.
I'm Bruce. Hi.
Hi.
welcome. Is this your first time here?
No,
Okay, all right. Just wanted to catch you.
they should
They're
know
always
better.
here.
They're always here, okay.
Just look
Oh,
up
you
there.
were late.
Oh, by the way, I was coming to work yesterday, and I got cut off by a driver. And I usually don't do this, but I honked my horn. I really wailed into him. He was kind of rude. And oddly enough, he looked at the rearview mirror and started waving at me, and I could see he was smiling. And I'm going, God, what a jerk. Until he pulled away, and his bumper sticker said, "Honk if you love Jesus." This is the humorous group, not the humanist group. You're in the wrong place. That's a little bit about my background. So today we're going to talk about how do we know it's true, subtitled, "If Christianity was true, what would it look like in the world?" And kind of gone into depth about this. And I'm going to be on a rant right now, so if anybody is a hardcore Christian here, you're going to have a lot of fun with my talk. So here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Go ahead. First one. The best way to know that your own beliefs are true is to study the best arguments against your beliefs by yours truly. This is a common thread of skepticism. It's the holy grail of skepticism, is to question your own beliefs. Even if you're a hardcore humanist. Is there such a thing, Dave? There's no such thing as a hardcore humanist, is there?
No.
You have to still question your belief. By the way, religion could be true. Maybe. Maybe not. After inquiry, you usually make a decision. And until something powerful comes up that completely obliterates your own opinion about it, then you have to change your mind. And so far, no go on that one. So, I don't want to talk about epistemology. It's a study of knowledge. It gets kind of heavy into the philosophy part of it. Any philosophers here at all? Any amateur philosophers? How about that? Everybody's an amateur philosopher. How with it?
Yeah, we know.
Socrates, go ahead, Dave. Socrates, go back one. There you go.
Okay.
There's him. This is a rendering of the old guy, Socrates. He said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing," otherwise known as Dave. Down arrow. That's what it's supposed to mean. He who knows best knows how little he knows. How many people do we know like that?
Well, there's a bunch of them running for
That's
president.
right, that's right. There's actually, go ahead, Dave, there's actually very few things that we can know and call 100% true. But that depends on your definition of true, which is this. And I went through this and studied all of these in the dictionary, or in the dictionary, Wikipedia, and I think accurate and consistent is probably the two best things. Whatever is accurate and consistent over a long period of time is usually what we agree is true. Go, Dave. So our brain is, go ahead, Dave. To tell what is true, we have to take the first step by trying to find out how our brains work. What we have found out, and fairly recently, is that our brain works in non-perfect ways. To go, Dave. Our memories are very unreliable and can be mixed up with newer and older memories. Elizabeth Loftus, go, Dave, from UCI has done a lot of work in this area, so much so that she's responsible for changing how much our court system operates, because now personal testimony or eyewitness testimony is not allowed in courts, mostly because of her work over the past 10 years. Go, Dave. Our brains do a very bad job without the critical thinking skills to find out what is really true. Admitting that you can be wrong is the first step in deciding what's right or what's true. Go, Dave. The neuroscientist Stephen Novella, he is the head of the podcast Skeptics Guide to the Universe. How many people here listen to podcasts at all? Okay, a few. Good, good. Go, Dave. He described it as neural psychological humility, or knowing that your mind could be wrong. Again, this is the first step of critical thinking skills. Go, Dave. I believe this is the first step to critical thinking. Never assuming the truth of anything, 100% confidence at first glance. In other words, humans are horrible lie detectors. Our comfort level and confirmation bias is more important to us and easier to accept than starting to answer to ask questions, Some religious believers are not even allowed to question their religious beliefs. This means that the truth for some believers is what they are told without any examination or proofs needed. Indeed, 2 by 2 can equal 5 if you think that a deity has the power to make it so. Let's talk about the natural world versus the... You trying to figure that out, Mary? It doesn't make sense anyway. Forget it. Don't even worry. Don't even think of thinking about it. Let's take a look at the natural world versus the supernatural world. Go, Dave. To find out what is true in the natural world is basically a two-step process. First, we must look at science-based evidence, and number 2 is to look at the process, and this is important, of finding out why the item in question is truer than our current knowledge. The reason it might be not a good idea to use the supernatural is the religious-based reasoning for the supernatural is because that is arbitrary. Just think of the thousands of reasons our ancestors explained rain. How many gods in the world was responsible for rain or thunder or earthquakes or fire or a bad harvest? Now we know. In fact, I think that one of the proofs of no God is that we can look at our weather report and see what's ahead 7 to 10 days. It's like that would be a miracle 300 years ago. Go ahead, Dave. For both the natural and supernatural realms, we use varying levels of confidence. This is I said, that's confidence right there, right? I look in the mirror every day like that. Much of our confidence is based on personal experience, but can be swayed by others. Here, this is the Mr. Swayer right here. For others to, let's see here. Can be swayed by others we talk to using their personal experiences as well. So it's difficult to say anything is true without assigning a value of confidence. Our confidence is very high when it comes to airline travel, medicine, auto travel, and even disinfecting hands for germ control is well known and trusted as true throughout the world. Hundreds of other examples from many scientific fields gain our confidence as well. Our confidence level at these things are close to 100%. But there are many things that it's not 100% because we simply don't have the time to go through and say, I don't know about paleontology because I don't want to spend 10 years being a paleontologist. I'm going to instead look on Wikipedia, look at the anthropological texts and see, or anti-science texts and see if it makes any sense at all. Go, Dave. Speaking of the supernatural believer, the confidence level is usually at 101%. But the ideology and dogma differs from religion to religion as they are in conflict with what religion is true. If this is the case, why should we trust that any religion is true and should be used to guide everyday life? Is it possible to explore every religion on earth to find out which one is more likely to be the true religion? Of course not. If a believer states that their religion... Oh man, Staples. Excuse me. Staples in the way. Is the only true religion, how can others tell if it's true? How can we tell if any one of the 1,000 sects of Christianity are true? Should a rational believer that states that over 1 billion people in different religions are wrong and should question their own opinion? And my opinion is yes, they should question their own opinion. Compared to science-based opinions, religious truth seems to be scattered and are in contradiction with one another. Go, Dave. Is science unreliable? How many people here know what a young earth creationist is? Young earth creationists, those are the guys that think that the world is 6,000 years old. And that the universe was made 10,000 years ago. And the light that we see, God put in motion 10,000 years ago, not 13.8 billion years ago. So the young earth creationist is basically a fundamentalist, and they believe in authoritative figures. I'm going to take a side note right now and mention that how many people are book readers here? Everybody raise their hands. That's a good thing. I'm proud of you. I just in the middle of a book called Predisposed, and Predisposed is an idea that is based in some quite a lot of science, is that we are predisposed. to be more liberal or more conservative, more skeptical or less skeptical, more believing in authoritative figures or free thinkers. Think for ourselves. All the question and answer periods have to be at the end, otherwise it's going to be a mess. So just remember it. A young earth creationist once told me that you should not believe in science because science makes mistakes. Of course it makes mistakes. Everybody knows science makes mistakes, right? It would, but I would somewhat disagree. But should we call it a mistake if the outcome was better? Because usually when science is bad or mistaken, it's because something better, with more evidence usually, has replaced it. When it is found that something is not true, we can reject it and look for new explanations. In other words, mistakes lead to discoveries that are more true. We're living in an absolutely wonderful scientific age right now. In other words, mistakes lead to discoveries that are more true. In many situations, the mistake is minor, but leads to a slightly different direction to find out what is more true. So, mistakes in science are good, not bad, like the young earth creationists might say. Science is never 100%. You'll never say a scientist says, I'm 100% sure this is true. What they'll say is, I'm 100% true that the evidence is factual, which means that new evidence can come up. Scientists know that their work can be overturned with adequate evidence. This is the whole theme of how do we know what's true. More on this. Next one, Dave. Young earth creationists believe that scientific method gives false result in a field that conflicts with their faith, like geology, paleontology, radiometric dating. But if they reject the scientific method in one area, they must reject the scientific method in all fields because it's used consistently throughout all of science, medicine, geology, paleontology, neurology, anything that you could think about. They use the same method of finding out what is true, and maybe just days after an experiment, another experiment might prove that, no, we have to tweak that. It's not exactly this, it might be this. But just imagine if you did reject all of the scientific method in the world. You'd have to throw away your cell phone. They cause cancer. Throw away that microwave oven. It causes cancer. Don't go on that airplane. Science of the scientific method has not been proven that that airplane will fly. So you can see that they're zeroing in, the young earth creationists are zeroing in on basically 3 different fields of science that is in conflict with their religion. Everything else, A-OK, but not those 3 things. And this is where the authoritative mind comes in. If you believe in authoritative minds or believe in the argument of authority, either one person, a minister, rabbi, whatever, or a group of authorities, the family council in Montana, that's going into politics a little bit. Okay, Dave, let's go for the differences. In general, the truth is less likely when authoritative figures, and I'm going to read this for you guys, listen to authority figures because of their position, but only believe them if they can explain why. This is very important because scientists will give you shitloads of explanations of why it is true. If it's a religious authority, it's mainly 1 or 2 sentences that's interpreted from holy texts. If we have a majority of scientists agreeing in one particular issue in a very small specialized field, then we can say that the probability of them being wrong is very small, and the probability of the issue being accepted in the general public is very true. Is larger probability. Speaking of authority figures, we are trained from birth to respect and obey authority figures. Mother, father, grandparents, policemen, preachers, and teachers all play a part in this hidden but ever-present subconscious psychological condition. We are trained from birth to respect authority. If you're the type to continue that on and not think for yourself, then would you be called an authoritarian? Maybe. Next one. In the scientific world, peer-reviewed studies are one step among many in finding out what is more likely true. Studies have to validate their sources with evidence. Go, Dave. Experiments and get positive results. Duplicate studies strengthen the hypothesis. What type of peer-reviewed study is there in the religious field? There is none. Any religious authority can interpret any holy text any way they like. There are no consequences of how to get a Christian, no consensus, of how to get Christian to the Christian heaven through the big three: good works. Oh, sorry, I missed one. Stay there. Go back one, Dave. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll read this. If you are trying to prove that God exists, there are two very important things to remember. Reading the Bible is not valid research. I feel him in my heart. Personal experience. It's not valid research. There is 1.6 billion Muslims that feel Allah in their heart. It is not personal experience. It's all truly anecdotal. Again, getting back to, we have to question what we feel, what we think. If we feel something that happens, I was coming into a little bit late, and the light turned green, and I almost said, "Thank God." And I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe not. The light turned green on its own. Okay, Dave, go. There are three major reasons why believers accept the supernatural: holy text, personal experiences, and the potential reward for adhering to behavior dictated by an authoritative figure to get into heaven. Where can we find the truths in these? There are many holy texts, different personal experiences, they are all anecdotal, and there is no proof of an afterlife. Go, Dave. Since our intrinsic lie detectors are not accurate in spiritual matters, we should not trust our own opinions concerning the supernatural realm. Let's do some benefit comparison. And I'm going to go back to my own adage. Go, Dave. The best way to know that your own beliefs are true is to know the best arguments against your beliefs. And I'm going to add, no matter how strongly you are agreeing with your own beliefs. Let's compare scientific achievements, go Dave, and religious achievements to how each one of these have contributed to the benefits of mankind. It's obvious that scientific benefits have won out over the religious benefits. Longer lifespans, huge industrial, agricultural improvements, advances in medicine, and many other things such as GPS and the improvement of safety when it comes to travel. And what are the benefits of the belief of supernatural? I'll agree that religion is comforting, but looking at how many people are leaving religion are a sign that we all can, this is a graph of, I'm just going to get up here for a moment. We call this the silent generation. I don't know why, but that's just the graph does. This graph calls it it. This was baby boomers. It's in the 50s. This is in the 70s and 80s, and this is millennials. So take a look. This would be like 1940, 1950. 10% of people were atheists, but look how many people, actually it's non-religious. This is the nuns.
Yeah.
You click non-religious affiliation. That means you're a humanist, an agnostic, an atheist, but you don't have a religion. You might believe in the supernatural. You might believe in the Bigfoot. You might believe in space aliens that visited Earth. You might believe that there's a supreme being out there that doesn't have any consequence to us at all. But now look at it. It's grown, and just last year it went from 20 to 22%. That's us. It's growing. I don't know where that's going to end up, but it's growing, mostly because of the internet. The red part is religiously progressive, meaning that they're more liberal, like the Unitarian churches, for instance. These are the religious moderates, and finally we have the religious conservatives, 47 to 17. This is a trend that's happening right now. So in the free-thinking community, we live in a wonderful time because there are more of us that think that Ted Cruz, who wants to change the Constitution to be biblical, is not going to fly with us. Okay. Next we have, go ahead Dave, why are so many churches in Europe, Ireland, Sweden, Great Britain, why are so many of them going and turning into nightclubs and bars? Do you see this little archway here? Used to be the sanctuary area, and now they're drinking. If Satan was alive, he'd be laughing like crazy. Okay, Dave, go ahead. If the absence of evidence, that's where I got it back. We don't have to back up to that. A lot of people have said, I think that Carl Sagan said this, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. I actually disagree with that. Because if you have enough claims that you can verify are false, that's absence of evidence. Therefore, that absence of evidence means it's much less likely that something is true. And I'll explain that a little bit more. These things are going, let's see, what's the next one here? It looks like one of them is off here. Okay, stop right there, Dave. Let's take the absence of evidence right now. And I'm freewheeling it right now, not from the script. Suppose that prayers were true. Everybody agrees that Christians and, well, any religionist would say prayers are true. But there's been 52 prayer studies in the last 49 years. All of them are inconclusive. All of them are, there's no correlation between prayers and good works. This is a pretty big deal because people are comforted by religion and they want their prayers to work. And when they don't, what's the negative aspect? Some people say, what have I done? God has not rewarded me. This is the psychological negative aspect of believing. Something that I've done, or something my children have done, or my parents have done, original sin. The worst thing that ever was invented in humanity was original sin. Passing something negative from a father to their sons. Let's have an applause. I heard an applause for that. Thank you very much. You can applause anytime you like to. It just feeds my ego, so I'm going to be smiling bigger anyway. Let's take a look at hospitals. Just think, if you were a Jehovah's Witness, and you went into a hospital, and they said, oh, you're a Jehovah's Witness, I see. You're going to be out of here in 30% less time than anyone else. That does not happen. Everybody in the entire world, when needing medical care, is healed the exact same percentage if the medical care is the same. In Egypt, in India, in Pakistan, if you have the equivalent medical care, everybody gets healed the same. If there was a true religion, there'd be a spike, maybe not 20 or 30%, but even 1 or 2 or 3% over the entire hospital studies that have been done. Why are apostates returning? Why aren't apostates returning to their faith? Why aren't we going back to churches? There's a big population, as the graph said previously, that is not going back to churches. In fact, they're leaving it. Why aren't other faiths joining Christianity or vice versa? You would think that if there was evidence that it was true, for instance in hospital studies, or a very, very large personal anecdotal evidence does not work, because everybody thinks that their God is healing them. What about Christian protection? Why are more church buses in accidents than normal buses? I don't get it. What's the deal, God? You know, now you guys are horrible. You're laughing at something that was bad. Oh, well, no, okay. It's absolutely true. Well, there's an actually logical reason why church buses get in more accidents. They're not trained drivers. The big ones are, of course. But the small ones, the shuttle buses, they're not trained drivers. So that's a reason. But still, if God was protecting them, you know. And the last one is free will. We talk about this all the time in another group that I visit. Go ahead, Dave. If God planned everything, do what I already predetermined you would do. If I was a believer, a predeterminist, God knew I was going to be here. He would know the next thoughts I would think before I would even think them. We have no free will if there was an omniscient God. This goes into the free will argument, which we talk quite a lot about in other groups. And if you're a predeterminist, meaning you're predetermined to think the way they do, that even leads more in a natural way, a biological way, that you're predetermined to think a certain way. And so it's hard for everybody here to think that they were here right now because they had no choice. I was biologically determined to be a humanist. But part of that is true, I believe, after all the studies that I've done, all the books that I've read. There's another book for your readers out there called Sex at Dawn. It has not much to do with sex, but it has to do with evolutionary psychology. We have 3 billion years, million years. Thank you for correcting me at our last meeting. We have 3 million years of selection of how we think, how we started to think. 3 million years does not go away with our biology. We're all products of our previous ancestors. So there's a lot of things happening deep inside our psyche having to do with how our brain was developed, and those hominids that survived and those hominids that did not survive. Those hominids that did survive, we have more of them in us. If Christianity was true, it would be easy to tell, because the answers to the hardest questions would be so strong that there would be no question if Christianity was true. There would be no fallacies, no logical contradictions. Everything would be easily explained, and they would be very little to criticize. But that's not the case. Christianity, if true, would be so strong, Dave, that an 8th grader could defend the most atheist apologetic. It would be so simple, so strong. And I'm just putting Christianity here as a placeholder. You can substitute any religion if you like. There's not one argument that I've seen that can convince me that it's even 10% true. And I'm open to being convinced that Christianity is true, if the evidence was there. If any religion was so true and so that all unabashed, educated atheists were quitting their atheism and joining their religion, I'd have to kick back a little bit. So why are these guys going over to this religion? What do they see in it that I don't? But that's not the case. We don't see that. Religion, especially Christianity, can be extremely confusing on what sect is true. All of them have different demands upon the Christian and different ways to get to heaven. They all have different doctrines and believe in things that other Christian sects, this is just the weirdest thing that's happening and so easily seen, that other sects see other Christians as apostates, as not Christian. Take example, Andrea Yates. I think it was back in '98. Andrea Yates killed 4 of her kids. Right? She had a message from God. Who's to say that those kids weren't all for the next Hitlers and we're going to take down the world? We don't know. I think it's a horrible thing to even think that. But what if God actually did something like that? Does everybody know here about the 44 religious privilege laws in the United States that allows parents to not bring their children in to have medical care when they need medical care? 44 states have that. 17 states. This is I'm almost at the end, so I'm going to freewheel it here. There are some things that you just take a look at and you say, where did this come up? And I was listening to a podcast last night and I heard about it. Nixon's aides were Christian scientists. They put in place in the 70s, they put in place a law that 44 states have right now, 17 of them have the strict law I'm about to tell you, that if a Christian scientist withdraws medical care, they cannot be prosecuted. So in 17 states right now, if you withdraw medical care from your child and they die, some of them don't die the last minute, they finally said, okay, I believe in God, but I'm going to take them to a hospital. You know what Christian scientists are all about, guys? They are a sect of Christianity that was invented in the 1890s by Mrs. Sawyer, I think it is. And that God is perfect. We are His children, so we are perfect. And if you see a boil on your hand, the boil does not exist. You just have to pray. And they get paid by nurses, or I think they call it attendees, that's another word, professional attendees, come and pray for you, and guess who pays the medical bill? Us. Because they are on insurance claims now. Yes, this is something that if you're not upset, you're not paying attention. It's the same thing. So there's a...
There are nurses who are on medical care?
That's right. Well, Christian scientists specifically, professional prayers. Professional prayer people. I mean, they're professional prayers.
They're also called readers.
Readers, that's the one. Thank you very much. You must be an ex-Christian scientist, sir. Is that right?
Well, I think it's...
Wait.
These states that you're talking about also pro-life
Probably.
In other words, if I want to off myself.
Probably, but we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Okay, suppose that you do not, you're a true Christian Scientist, that boil that can be treated by one antibiotic shot will go away because it doesn't exist because we're perfect, and your child dies. In 17 states, you can't be prosecuted, you can't be fined, you can't be jailed, you can't be put under social services, you can't be put under probation. You are scot-free. And if you have a second child, and that second child dies, which has happened many times, and it's under the radar, they don't announce it, there's an internal guilt, I think, that takes over, that they just don't say anything about it, doesn't get publicized, you go scot-free. This is one of the political injustices that has happened, that politics influence Christianity. In fact, that's the direction they want to go. I'm sure that everybody here is probably pro-church-state separation. Well, we need to enforce that to make sure this doesn't happen. And if you read the details, if you read the history of how this happens, it's people of power making small changes, and it's a slippery slope. And everybody knows about the slippery slope argument. I actually don't believe in most slippery slope arguments, but this one is true because there's a history behind it. They get a little bit, they'll take a little bit more. An example would be abortion. I know that's a hot topic, but they go and they change the laws for Planned Parenthood medical centers. This is one reason why Planned Parenthood is not gaining ground in the political South. If you have a Planned Parenthood center that you rent or lease or even own, the laws now are that first of all a doctor has to be part of a hospital group to perform abortions. Why? In fact, there's been some talk of bringing down the abortion to have it staffed by non-doctors. Why would the anti-abortionists want a hallway that could fit 2 gurneys, and if you don't have a hallway that fits 2 gurneys, you have to shut down or move to a different center? There are no gurneys used in abortion centers. And only 3% of the procedures are abortions. And all of them are in the first trimester, a vast majority are in the first trimester. So why are you saying, I don't like 3% of this group's activities because 97% are women's health issues? This is a continuing fight that liberals and people of conscience about having individual rights are always continuing to battle. So I'm going to end with the slide. There are 2 ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to accept what is true. Refuse. Whoa, did I get that one wrong? I didn't check that one out. Okay, refuse. Yes, refuse to accept what's true. And the last one. These 2 I'm just going to read. With or without religion, you would have good people do good things and evil people do evil things. But for good people to do evil things, that takes religion. And the last one. The best way to know that your beliefs are true is to study the best arguments against your beliefs. Thank you very much. Is that on time? And my little thing there. Bruce Backyard Skeptics. Okay. So I'm going to put a little fire in your gumption. Is that right? A particular, what is it called? An evangelic atheist.